The Movement number 2, written by Gail Simone, art by Freddie Williams II. So last issue was basically just our introduction, our big bang flash to get it all going. But we did end with 2 police officers being taken by the Movement, which I assume is their group name, into their lair. And that's where we pick up here. Coral City. The 2 police officers are blindfolded and being led by Virtue, the leader of the group. And basically the cops are saying, like, do you know, like, we're cops. Do you honestly think that the cops aren't going to stick out for each other? Like, you're going to have hell raining down upon you. And it's like, yeah, we're not hiding. That's the thing. And she leads them to this central area, takes off their blindfolds, and says, yeah, no, these people, there's tons of people there, and they're all just living. They're not like soldiers. They're just people living their lives. And says, yeah, these people are homeless. All of their shelters were closed by the higher ups. And like, we're here to keep them safe because clearly you can't. And it's called the 181. And then she gives this whole thing on like, it was a factory back before like workers' rights. The owners chained up people so that they were forced to work overtime, and then one day there was a landslide and 181 people there died, and that's that. And as they're walking through, we see the girl who was almost assaulted by one of these cops in the first issue recognizes a cop, comes over, just punches him hard in the face and says, oh, you remember me, big man? How about you give us a peek and then we'll call it even. And he just takes it. He's just like, oh, you honestly think that these hippies are going to keep us from leaving time anytime we want? And Virtue's like, no, you're going in the jail cells. And so she has some jail cells. She puts them in there. One of the cops starts pleading, just like, please, we were stupid. We know, like, just let us go. The other cop's pretty stoic, just like, nah, screw you. I'm not playing this game. And he makes the point of, you're keeping us here against our will, just like those workers who died all those years ago. How does that make you any better? And Virtue's like, noted. Anyway, so she goes to leave because apparently Mouse is freaking out and is scaring some of the kids around. We see, I don't even know if she has a name. No, wait, sorry. Vengeance Moth is a girl in a wheelchair, and she comes up to keep watch over the cops. He offers them some fruit snacks. Meanwhile, Mouse, real name Jaden, he's freaking out because his favorite mouse, Trouncer, has died. And Virtue and I think it's not Catharsis. It's the one who's able to make like earthquakes. We'll get to her name eventually. She is trying to calm down Mouse, and Mouse is just not having any of it. He's like, okay, no, I'm not okay. He was my favorite. And then like, she says, you know, everything's got to die. It was a circle of life, whatnot. And he's like, I kind of want to eat him. And that's where that just leaves off. So then we go to the captain of the police force, the one from last issue. And he's super pissed off that the movement basically is doing the work of the cops, that he has been basically torn out from that. And he asks one of the other cops, like, why do you want to be a cop, fellow officer? And the officer's like, oh, I wanted to help people. I was like, that's a good answer. So we're going to come back and we're going to bring some firepower and we're going to stop this movement before they're able to do something too dangerous. So then we go down to the War Council, which is just kind of the leaders of the movement. We've got Virtue. I've always blanked on her name. The girl with the like powers to do the earthquakes. God, it's very difficult to remember these new people. Catharsis, who's got wings. We've got Mouse, and we've also got Burden, who's the kid who's like demonic from last issue. He's just shown up and he's got powers, so he's here too. So they basically, number one thing is, what do we do with the cops? Do we let them go? And Virtue's just kind of being in the middle here of, well, no, we shouldn't let them go, but we do need justice. Like, what's going on? Catharsis comes down on, let's beat the ever-loving crap out of them. Burden, he comes up and he's like, guys, I don't really think I should be here. I've possessed by a lord of hell. And Catharsis is just like, yeah, I hate being with all of you like hippy-dippy people. Like, I need to beat the crap out of something. Like, come on. And the girl's name is Tremor. That's it. And Virtue chimes up like, okay, Tremor, what do you have to say? And Tremor's like, look, we need to decide whether we're the kind of people who beat prisoners to make a point, and I don't think that's who we should be. I don't think we should be torturing prisoners. And Catharsis calls out that Tremor is possibly a traitor, that there is someone in their group who's leaking information to the cops. And obviously, like, the Cornea killer, the serial killer from last issue, is stealing the eyes from homeless people. So that's like, they shouldn't be worried about small things like the cops' feelings and whatnot. So at that point, Catharsis storms out and says, oh, I'll find the bastard myself. And she swats away Virtue's hand, and Virtue, like, grows in size, which I guess is her power. But regardless, Catharsis isn't having time for it. She pulls out a sword and is like, whatever, I'm going to take care of this proactively. So she flies off. And we see she flies to the building of James Cannon, who is apparently a land developer who more or less runs the city. He tells the mayor what to do, the city council, and he plies them with tons of money. And Catharsis is basically saying, like, I'm here to stop you. I'm here to put an end to all this because you are clearly somewhat behind this Cornea killer. So then the rest of the gang is making their way to speak to, quote-unquote, a witch, which I have no idea what they're going on about, but she's apparently got something that they want to know. So when they show up there, they get ambushed, and they're immediately attacked by just a whole bunch of people. We see them all using their powers to take on these group of people until finally we see that they have managed to make their way past, and they make their way to the Weather Witch, also known as Rainmaker. And they think that she has something to do with it because all of the victims have been found in pools of water. So if she's a weather witch and she can make rain, maybe that's what's going on. But anyway, back to Catharsis. She gets jumped by a bunch of James Cannon's like personal security. She starts beating the crap out of him as best she can, but she is eventually overwhelmed and like tased and beaten and stuff like that. And one of them calls out like, you some kind of a mental patient? You're pulling a sword on cops? And then Catharsis says, you idiots, I am a cop. So we've got a bit of duplicity. We've got a bit of like, who can you trust sort of stuff going on. I gotta be honest, I'm a bit confused as to what this book is. I thought in the first issue I had a good grasp on it, that it was, okay, you've got the authority, the people who are like in charge that are failing a specific group within the city, and then this group of the movement has taken it upon themselves to be the defenders, to be the group that's going to look after this ignored subculture. I'm okay with that. I like that idea. But now we're getting into this larger thing of like, okay, we've got this one rich guy who runs the city, down with that. But then you've got this idea of the serial killer is maybe going to be someone within the group, and like this Rainmaker lady. You've got the fact that Catharsis is a cop. I don't think that there's no plan, but I do think that I could have been drip fed this a bit more. They're throwing a lot out all at once before I am fully immersed in these characters, and it's making it confusing for me to even just go through. So I'm a little iffy as it stands now. I love the concept, but it's a bit too much being thrown all out here. I needed maybe just focus for the first arc on this group against the cops or something like that. But I think it's doing too much all at once. So regardless, I'd say that this is probably I don't want to come off as too negative, but it is like a 5.5. And it's just because writing wise it's confusing, and art wise I'm not the biggest fan of Freddie Williams here. I think he does better with more ethereal stuff, and this is supposed to be very street level. So yeah, this is like a 5.5. I want to like it more. I'm looking forward to like when it can get to that point, but this just wasn't it for me.